You're listening to the ADHD Heroes Podcast, a podcast where we speak with the heroes of the ADHD community, namely educators, mental health professionals, and of course, those with ADHD themselves, to gain insights, tools, and most importantly, inspiration towards succeeding and thriving with ADHD. I'm your host, Rabbi Shmuel Reich, a high school Rebbe and an ADHD coach in private practice. Welcome to the show. Hi there. On this week's episode, I was joined by someone named Nesanel Epstein, who came on the show to share his ADHD story. It's a long story, so we split it into 2 episodes, though as always, I recommend listening on double speed, just like I do. We discussed entrepreneurship, intense emotional dysregulation, difficulty adjusting to a new community's mores and expectations, being bullied, a sense of stigma, being over-medicated, the value of a good experience in camp, having school rules adjusted for him, and a lot more. Before we begin, I'd also like to tell you about a podcast I listen to called the Chinuch Today Podcast. The host of the Chinuch Today Podcast is former ADHD Heroes Podcast guest Rabbi Yerachmiel Garfield, Menahel of Yeshiva Torah Samas of Houston, Texas. Rabbi Garfield interviews a wide range of creative thinkers who are already implementing their valuable innovations in the world of education. Episodes include a unique anti-bullying program, an outdoor leadership training program, a science curriculum that highlights seeing the hand of God in science, and a lot more. So whether you're a principal looking for new ideas to implement broadly, a classroom educator looking for inspiration, or a caring parent looking for hope through what is coming down the pipeline, the Chinuch Today Podcast may be for you. Also, Rabbi Garfield has recently come out with a book called When They Were Young, with inspiring stories from the younger years of great rabbinic giants and what we can learn from them. If you would like an ad for your product here on the ADHD Heroes Podcast, you can email us at adhdheroespodcast@gmail.com. Now, back to the regular episode. Enjoy. Nesanel Epstein, welcome to the ADHD Heroes Podcast. I'm excited about our conversation today.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Reich, for having me. It's at 5:21 a.m. in Yerushalayim, America.
Excellent. Fun fact, I'm in New York and it's not 5:21 a.m. over here. I'm actually not. I'm in Pennsylvania, but it's not 5:21 a.m. It's over here. Either way, a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? Where are you from? How old are you? Talk to me.
So let's do one by one. Okay, where am I from? I grew up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey from 5 to, let's say, 18, and then I was in and out in my yeshiva year. Originally, I'm from Yerushalayim, America.
Right.
What did you say? How old am I? I am, thank you, Shem, 30 years old.
Excellent. What do you do professionally?
What do I do professionally? That's a very good question. ADHD stuff. So, Baruch Hashem, I do a lot of different things. I tell people I serve Hashem, like that's what I do. But
Or what do you get a paycheck for?
So I've discussed to work for Torah anytime. I also I've been benched with three businesses. Thank you, Hashem. And then entrepreneur. So the 3 businesses, business owner, but then entrepreneur, hustler, different things. Finding opportunities here, there. Hashem has no short. As I say, the Royal Bank of Gan Eden has no shortage of funds and is not FIDC insured and is never going to collapse. So Hashem knows where to send the money.
Excellent. So you have some cool businesses. Want to tell us what they are in a quick little nutshell?
Yes, I would love to. Okay, so the first business is the Talisman, which is a high-end Judaic business. And I was supposed to specialize in tying every minhag of tzitzis. And that morphed into selling every minhag of safros, mezuzahs, tefillin, sefer Torah, and talisim. The tying came first. And then the sister business is the Sukkos man of schach, sukkos, decorations, arba minim. So it's a shiloh if that's one business or 2 businesses. So, and then the third business is called Event Video, where that Baruch Hashem morphed out of Torah anytime because I've been to so many different events, and then people saw me with the camera and professional equipment, and they're like, "Hey, could you record this? Could you record that?" And then Baruch Hashem that morphed into. Before you ask me the next question, could I, in a nutshell, just say how the Talisman came about? Could I discuss that for 2 seconds?
Sure.
So when I was 8 years old, I was on the floor playing with Lego, and my father came over to me and said, "Hey, would you like to tie tzitzis with me?" long story short, my father recently led a trip back then to Eretz Yisrael as a community rav and doing kirov outreach. And they stopped at the Tcheles factory over here in Eretz Yisrael. One guy, Mark, couldn't come, so he's like, Rabbi, could you bring me back a talis with the blue strings? Long story short, I'm tying this with my father at the table. He's showing it with me, and we tied one talis. And then a little bit after 13, bar mitzvah, my father, I used to always walk him to shul, and he would speak at the shkomen, the first minyan, and come in by leaning, speak. They would lean, and then go into the next minyan, as the rabbi's son does. So I'm walking to shul, then we get to shul, the first minyan, and my father shows me the shul newsletter called the news link, SOI news link, and it says in there, Sitzis Time Gemach by Nesanel Epstein. Ada Yom Hazeh. My father never asked me. Still didn't ask me, do I want to be the talisman? That's later. There was no name. There was just a gemach. I was just doing a community service. So Summer Ginsburg, the noted marketer, business consultant, Hasidish guru at business, spoke at Silicon Valley Google headquarters with his pace and beard. Anyways, he told me years later, another point in chinuch that I really want to bring in is that my father did something incredible. He never asked me. He just made it official. And this is something in marketing and business and advertising. When you make it official, then it does wonders. My father would have asked me, do you want to tie scissors? Do you want to do this? Come on. He didn't ask me anything, and that's why it became official. Because I would have said, I don't know, I'm 8, this. And then just fast forward, one thing led to another. It became a business, and it's called the Talisman today. And Baruch Hashem, I was just going over the what's it called, the books. And Min Hashamayim in 6 years of actually being business. Thank you, Shem, over $100,000 in gross. So from a gamach at 8 years old to watching my father tie tzitzis became a high-end Chideka business. And that's how that started. And then Sukkot Man was similar, but not the same thing. Just in 9th grade, a kid in my class sold sukkos. No, built sukkos. And then I decided to do that and copy that, and one thing led to another, and now I'm sewing sukkos and schach and making deals. And one fun fact, I had this chance to sell the largest sukkah in Pennsylvania to Citron and Rose. It was 20 by 50 feet. And for anyone that doesn't know what that means with audio processing, that means 20 parking spaces.
That's very big.
So yeah, and that was $5,000 in this or $5,500 in one sale. So Baruch Hashem, just from being a high school kid on my bike, riding around, building people's sukkahs one by one, and not even having a price list, ADHD style, and it's showing up and they're like, okay, here, we'll pay you. And I remember one time I didn't even know with my friend, and they're like, and he's like, cha-ching, and we both got a check for $100. I was like, it was so cool. But Baruch Hashem, now having a price list and a website, and you could book the Sukkot Man to put up your sukkah in the greater Philly area. But that's in a nutshell of the two businesses. And Torah Anytime, just to go over there in a nutshell too, I grew up with the executive director of Torah Anytime. When I was 14, I met him, and then we became friends, and then I started putting out magnets and cards, and I literally went all over the world, to Vilna, to Milwaukee, you name it. I put a Torah Anytime booklet, brochure, card, something, and then I would text the director as a kid. We were very, very close, man. And then, long story short, Baruch Hashem, I got hired later. As people know, I worked very hard to get to that point, and just doing shtalos, impressing the director till I met the founder, and we'll get into that later. But the same type of thing of just starting small, the 1% rule, and then getting my own camera, raising $1,700 for the camera, really for my father, and leading on to incredible things. With just meeting the director in shul, he's like, "Good Shabbos, I just moved in. My name is Yosef," and from that, years later, to running Torah Anytime Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, changing the world. So it's crazy how Hashem does that. And then on my own business, starting a video business, starting out of that. But you never know. We have a deal, me and Yosef Davis, of whenever you find that guy, that kid, that somebody who's like, I don't know what the word is, but a little bit lost, whatever, you could be that big brother. And Ada Yom Hazeh, I don't have an older brother, and I don't know if he has a brother. I think he only has a sister. I'm not sure, but we got that, and now we're changing the world together. We made that bond, from that one good Shabbos Mincha. Unbelievable.
Okay, so a little bit about yourself and your history. What's the earliest memory you have relating to ADHD, or what precipitated your diagnosis, we'll say?
I was 8 years old. It starts a little bit earlier that I was. I live now in Yerushalayim, Eretz Kodesh, with my wife and kids, Baruch Hashem. So from 0 to 5, I grew up in Yerushalayim, not in Yerushalayim, actually, Telstone. I was born in, fun fact, Shari Tzedek, outside Bayat Pagan. That was like a normal childhood, my father, I got a lot of love, this, that. Eretz Yisrael is great to raise your kids for a younger age. It's harder. They say it's easier in America. If you don't know the school Haredi school systems here, but that was normal law. 0 to 5. And then when I they say, and my daughter is doctor. I just asked him. Shout out to Dr. Oliver from Efrat. So he says 6, and we think my daughter has it too. ADHD, it's hereditary. But it came out when I was 8, and my earliest memory is just one night. My father's like, "You need a shower," and I'm like, I don't remember what I said. All I know is my father like wrestled me into his bathroom, not the kids' bathroom, and it was like such a fight just to take a shower. And I was like, "What's?" He was like, "What's going on over here?" I was going on, "What's going on over here?" It was just like something's off over here. And I remember the next day, my father and my mother both took me to some doctor named Dr. Mintz, who's actually still in business in South Jersey somewhere. And then I was evaluated over there. That's my earliest memory of just like 2 hours over there in an office, not knowing what's going on, asked a billion questions, this, that, the other. That's my earliest memory, and then I have a second memory, but that's my earliest.
What was your reaction to that whole episode?
I was 8, I don't know. I didn't have emotional, I didn't know how to processing, emotional regulation, physical regulation. I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't have a reaction. What happened was, and I love my parents, and disclaimer, there's gonna be a lot of real emotions here. This is gonna be a real. So not every so this is the thing I'm gonna say, and I'm just gonna say it as it is. I love my mother and I love my father. They sat me down shortly after because they already got me medication, and just as a kid like this, I'm like, he's looking at me or this, and it just anyone looked at me the wrong way back then, or my siblings, and I did get shepherded, I did get bullied a lot, which is classic. It felt wrong because our emotions as ADHDers are much higher than stronger, deeper. So my parents
Yeah.
sat me down, and I think it was more my mother was like, "Listen, you are different and you're going to need medicine, and you don't have to tell anyone about it. And this is your own secret, and it's okay. Your brain, I don't even know the part your brain's different and you need this just like you're different. You need this, and it's your secret, and you don't have to tell anyone about it." Now, you know how much baggage, how much internal trauma that kept me from 8 to 8 from it was really from 8 to 18, then it was locked in me from 18 to 28. And I'm still healing now, Baruch Hashem, in therapy. Shout out to Shlomi Erlich Chal Yisrael's world-renowned trauma-informed therapist, and marriage and chinuch and all the other parts of he's an expert at. Unbelievable yid. On Torah anytime. And I've discussed to be involved years later. Now I'm running his 20 time content and recording him. So it's unbelievable how Hashem makes it. And one of the things he recently told me is like by 30 is when Hashem makes it that your brain processes and then you do something about it. It's like there's no reason you went through all this to be over medicated, all these things. Hashem did it for a reason. He's like, you're going to write a book one day and maybe a podcast. Here I am on a podcast. But so I'm giving back now. Anyways, so yeah, I had so much locked in me from that experience, from my parents just sitting me down. You're different. You don't have to tell anyone. And there's a little bit of background on my mother's family. They're one of these families so that like they don't tell anyone if they're having surgery. Like medical stuff is very private. I remember calling my grandmother. I'm like, Savta, I live in Yerushalayim. I would have went to the holiest place in the world and davened for you. How do you not tell me? And she's like, you're right, you're right. So like somehow medical stuff is like private on my mother's side, and so
So having this as a secret was really hard for you. That's the piece of it. Having the shame and the secretive nature of it.
but more than that, a step way further is that I didn't even know that. It's just it was something that I thought like you don't talk about this. It's private, America, everyone's business. So you don't even ask people certain places. It's rude to ask someone who they voted for. Like I grew up like that. So it's more than just the shade. It's just like I didn't know that one of the 5 things that Dr. Russell Barkley says is that you have to own your ADHD. Number one is own your ADHD. So I didn't know that owning my ADHD and the right way to do it, as Kristen Carter says, and I really enjoy her show and learned so much from her. And she lives outside Philadelphia somewhere. So, anyways, she says that you're supposed to empower someone and sit them down and say, Chaim, Hashem benched you with an unbelievable body, an unbelievable brain. Shout out to Dr. Felt. I know he's on the show, and I had a few sessions with him, and he pointed me in the right direction where I should get to, uh, or got to, I show with my ADHD journey. So he says Hashem doesn't make any mistakes. It's from Yidden. As religious Jews, we know that Hashem doesn't make any mistakes. And I personally don't even like the D part in the disorder part because it's not a disorder. It's just a different operating system. My whole life, I knew I had ADHD, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't get educated. And it was just like, okay, take this medicine. This is going to make you better. And you don't have to tell anyone about it. And I just grew up like and taking it. And at one point I took Risperdal and I had to cut it in half a milligram in the morning, half at 1 o'clock. And I got so bullied for having a alarm on my phone. I'm not my phone. I have a phone back on my digital watch. And like and I always like secretly take the medicine. And like, that's what I'm saying. It's not just shame. It was more than that. It was just like, I can't tell anyone about it because it's my own secret. Because
Right. So the secretive nature of it, maybe the fact that you can't talk about it, the fact you weren't able to talk about it.
it's no one's business. And like, how many people take medicine in the world, not just ADHD? The United States is extreme. How many pills a day are popped? I heard a whole share from Rabbi Jonathan Rietti on this. So like, that's a whole separate thing. But like,
Right.
so many people are on medication for anxiety and this and many different reasons. Like blood pressure, who knows what. But in today's day and age, Hashem benched the world, the Welt, with medication. And therapy, as Hashem Ehrlich says, that Hashem gave a gift. So our generation, this Dar has things that nobody else had of therapy, medicine, technology.
What are some highlights of elementary school? What was the elementary school experience overall like for you?
Elementary school. So back in my usual in Eretz Yisrael days, it was fine. I was in this Israeli theater and like it was wonderful, and that was amazing. I probably didn't teach like general studies, Limudei Chol. Okay, then culture shock, big shift, mind shift, everything coming from an Israeli boys non-co-ed school to come into Cherry Hill, New Jersey. The first thing is this culture shock and nobody explaining to me that this is that you need this. As Kristen Carter says, like nobody taught us this. Nobody says this is. And so many times I've had this experience where like people are like, "You're supposed to know that." So just knowing this school works differently, coming from from another country, and it's mixed. So that was one thing, and just it's different. And then just knowing there's different teachers in the morning, different in the afternoon. Some are Jewish, some are not Jewish, some are not religious, some are not from. All that confused me completely. Back in the early 2000s, of teachers and moros and rebbeim not having the background knowledge, the coaching. So let's say from the from point of view, from the religious, Torah Masorah for sure has an emphasis now on the ADHD classroom the general studies teachers, math, all the teachers teaching the non-Judaic Torah study topics, they were not rounded. My kindergarten teacher called me Nesanel for the whole year because instead of Nathaniel. And you know what that did to me? And not treating me like a person, calling me by my name. So there's just a lot of teachers, maybe they were great, but they were terrible to me because they didn't know how to relate and connect and call you out. And I remember in fourth grade, I don't remember exactly what happened. I said, could I go to the bathroom? And maybe I didn't want to take the test, or I did, whatever it was. I got out of taking a test, and then somehow I went to the office. I need to call my mom. Whatever it was, I got penalized. I got detention. And it was just like, something's going on over here. And recently, my daughter was giving me a very hard time, and like I'm like fighting back until I just looked at her and said, "What's the problem? And she just opened up. She's 3, and I'm like, Esther, what's wrong? She tells me. She just wanted to like hold the bencher at the Shabbos table, and and that was one of the disconnects. So like sometimes teachers like I'm the teacher. I have a degree in math. I have a master's in education. I went to school and throw the guy out of the window. Like to take out the haughtiness and like throw that for a second. Just kids are innocent. You just have to understand them, and they won't give you so much trouble if you just understand them for 3 seconds. So that's one part. And the other part is, Baruch Hashem, the flip side is I got a lot of help. I was in the resource room for years. I wasn't always in the classroom. That hurt me socially because I wasn't part of the chevra. I wasn't part of the guys, or if there's girls there, but I wasn't really part of the girl. Um, it just, there was good parts, there's bad parts. At one point, my parents tried to change schools, but the board got involved, and being my father's the community rabbi, they're like, no. I think I don't know if it's true, but like they didn't want it to look bad that the rabbi has to take his kid out of the only community day school. I don't know. Whatever it was, I made it there till I was till eighth grade. Parts of it worked out, parts didn't, and that's that.
Okay, moving on to high school. Where did we see the ADHD come up in high school?
Okay, so ninth grade was the worst year of my life. Thank you, Hashem. I want to publicly thank Hashem for putting me through that because it was the best thing and the worst thing at the same time. And the shkafa is it ain't double raw you're in min. So nothing's bad. Nothing's bad. It seems bad. It's painful. We experience the physicality is that, but ultimately the whole big picture that we're missing because we only see one piece of the puzzle. But Hashem sees the 1,000 pieces. We only see, there's 999 other pieces. So ninth grade was the worst year of my life, and coming from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, there wasn't. And now, Baruch Hashem, there's a major yeshiva of Cherry Hill, and
FTI.
FTI. Yeah, that wasn't really established. I did look into it in ninth grade. It wasn't the right fit. I was situated in the right demographic. Cherry Hills is smack in the middle of Baltimore and New York. So, and there was no way I was going away dorming for high school, even though that was not happening with ADHD. So my father looked into options, and we Lakewood's the closest city, and I mean from a city, not the closest city. And when in Cherry Hill, when you say the city, it's not New York, it's Philly. But the closest from city, Jewish city, is Lakewood. Long story short, we checked out a few different places. They weren't fit. There was one place that was a fit outside Lakewood, 5 miles. Shout out to Rabbi Grunhut, who's on this show, and he's now my ADHD coach, and he learned there. And because of this show, I checked them out after doing so much work, ADHD work, and self development, and a billion coaches there. You name it, all the stuff you do. I was like, really hesitant. Okay, is he going to be the right guy? And I heard this show, and it was great. So now he's my guy. So I went there for ninth. So we settled over there ninth grade, and it just wasn't the right fit. Culture shock coming from out of town and growing up as a frum kid, but over there it's more yeshivish, it's more Lakewood, but it wasn't the right fit. Culture shock again, like we said, 5 years old from Eretz Yisrael to Cherry Hill, and then here do like a Lakewood type of yeshiva. Now I would dorm for the first week, and then I was out of there. So I ended up the whole week I dorm, and I came over Shabbos every week. Here we go again. I got a phone. Now it wasn't a smartphone. It was back then. iPods are like the biggest of era. So and now, smartphone made iPods mutter in every yeshiva. As a Rebbe, you probably can relate to that. And secular music, Jewish music, and movies. Weiter. So I would dorm the whole week, come home for Shabbos, but that ruined everything again because all these kids in my class are looking at me like, how does he get to go home for Shabbos? It's not an out Shabbos. There's so much culture shock, bullying, this, that. The Rebbe over there, shout out to Rabbi Weiss, he put a lot of love into me, helped me, defended me, like helped me. But then again, the kids, the Bachram were like, "Oh, does your father pay Rabbi White?" It's like it just didn't. It just was not a good fit. Even though I learned Bava Kama really well, but other than that, coming from a day school, they were doing pre-algebra when I already did that. I did pre-algebra in seventh grade. We did algebra 1 in eighth grade. Like
Right? Did the ADHD make it worse? Was it exacerbated by the ADHD?
it did because I didn't know how to regulate myself. They're doing not even pre-algebra, before algebra. They're doing reading. We're in English class. We're doing the around the world in 80 days. I don't know. You heard of that book? That
Sure.
it's a
Yeah.
famous. So like
Yeah.
we're doing lower level stuff. It wasn't good. It bumped up my Gemara skills. I felt Gemara in elementary school. I was like in the top because it was much lower, but then Gemara was higher, but then English studies, Hakones was great in seventh grade with the principal. That was amazing. I mean, Gila and Makos, but then, so here's the thing. So my father spent a lot of money, Roshem, and I spent a lot of sessions. On Sunday, my parents would drive me in, and then I would get a ride from the yeshiva to Lakewood. Someone was going 5 miles away, and then I'd get a ride from Lakewood back to Cherry Hill. Anyways, every Sunday that I would come, I would spend a lot of time before I would even go. I'd come late, and the school was okay with it. Yeshiva was okay with it. With Rabbi Meir Zuckerman, shout out to him, an incredible Yid social worker, therapist. So, and he helped me tremendously, like regulate myself, just just come back, just come back, just come back. And throughout high school also, it was just a lot of these emotions and not knowing what to say, and yes, knowing what to say. And someone, as guys in yeshiva do, like someone came over, you have change, and I'm like, no, I have change of a six. Now I don't know why I said that, I don't know, but they held that against me for like 6 months. Oh, he has change of a six. He doesn't have change. He has change of a six. So, and with medication, I had this side effect that I need to drink cranberry juice, because there's a bladder side effect. So I don't know if it's Risperdal, Concerta more makes you go to the bathroom a lot. So just having to bring like a gallon of Costco cranberry juice and having that in the dining room, and then I just remember being bullied at the 12th grade table. And then this 12th grader who like, we didn't get along. So he took the knife. 12th grade, whatever, 12th grade want to show they're the grade, and they're in charge of the kitchen and they're wonderful. And a lot of yeshivas have work studies. So this guy had access to the kitchen, maybe he served whatever, the food, who knows what. So he had one of these kitchen huge knives. So he was just mad at the ninth graders by his table. He takes the knife one day, cuts the table, the plastic on that long yeshiva plastic roll, and
Right.
this bottle of Kirkland's signature cranberry juice falls down, cracks, starts spilling over. Everyone's screaming, and I was just like unregulated, that's for sure. And I don't know if you ever heard of this, but like part of me was like, I want the bottle to spill so that they'll get more in trouble for like bullying. I need someone to like be called out over here. This is uncalled. So finally, one guy picks it up. I was like, save the drink. Picks it up, and then I was like so hurt. So I'm like, that's it. They owe me money. So I run to the payphone back then, payphones, and I start calling the 1-800 Costco number over there. And I'm like, hey, how much does this bottle of cranberry juice cost? And I'm like, I don't know what happened. And then the next day, when one and get in my class, ninth grader, he comes over to me. He's like, there's this new hotline, and it's a toll-free number on payphones. And he's like, I want you to try it out. And he's like, it's a Z11. So
Oh
if
gosh.
anyone knows the keypad, everyone in their head can imagine, but that's 911 for everyone that's not following. And then he quickly screams and like shoves the black payphone, Verizon payphone. And he's just like, no, dude. And he freaks out after he's pranking me. But it's just like, it wasn't working out from coming. It's all white shirt yeshiva. Again, I was the only one that was allowed to have a phone. And like, I couldn't talk about my iPod, and like, I only have Jewish music. I'm not the guy to start over. So that was ninth grade. Okay, let's fast forward.
Yeah. Rest of high school. Tell me more.
So I had three main doctors. So I had that one doctor was like I outgrew. I don't know why. Then I had another doctor in Houston, Texas. Don't ask me why. The answer is my grandparents were living there, and they called my father, and like, I know Nesanel needs help, and he's a wonderful yid in the community. And like, so I went and had several trips to Texas to go see that doctor. And then my father had a friend, as rabbis do, who's a doctor. They say the rabbis are friends with the rich, the gvirim, the philanthropists, and the doctors. So he had a friend who's a doctor, and in his practice who's a psychologist, and in his practice was a neurologist. And in Texas state law, you can't prescribe medicine to New Jersey. So he was like, gave the orders, and then the New Jersey neurologist. So that's how. So, anyways, I was over medicated on 108 milligrams, and that goes back to what we said before with the cranberry juice. And I also got dystonia. And years later, I'm talking to my father recently, and I basically had a therapy session with him, and like, because he's a therapist, also a marriage and family therapist, and that could just go somehow trauma and ADHD just like. And my father's like, yeah, you're over medicated. I'm like, what? And like, but also he like, I don't know why feelings and understanding. I think he does that with his clients through marriage, but like, this happened. Don't ask me.
These things happen. Yeah, they happen.
Because you're no gabbat over. And if it's right in front of you, then you're always looking everywhere else. 10th grade, with all that and going to Texas and this and doctors, so it didn't help. It didn't help. It helped that I got out of that yeshiva. And then I spent the awesome summer in Maganov. And I went there for several years. Camp is amazing. And I got a taste of public time, guys.
What was good about camp?
Oh, it was structured. Well, I started my earlier years in Dora Golding, but it's more modern, and that's okay. So it's just like a big disconnect over there. And one Rebbe in the camp, and he said, like, I called me over, and he's like, "What are you doing in this camp?" Like, and I just remember we're at a campfire, and I said to my JC, I'm like, "Can we sing Shwekis and Im Eshkache?" It was like 3 weeks, and he's like, "You're the frumest kid in this camp. Nobody's gonna know that." Well, after this learning Rebbe tells me, he's like, you might want to think of, I got out of there too. And we searched as classic and ADHD, like parents and kids, you have to search for the right fit. So my father did a lot of research. Camp Heller, it's not around anymore. Maganov is not around anymore either. Wasn't the right fit. So Maganov, we landed there. It was amazing. It was amazing. Why is it amazing? Because it was structured. It was B'nai Torah. People call Chavetz Chaim modern Orthodox. They're wrong. It's just that modern Orthodox. Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva might be less yeshivish than Lakewood and the Mir. Obviously, there's colored shirts. You don't have to wear white shirts, but it was the right fit coming from out of town, and the values, the hashkafa, the philosophy of the yeshiva, like it fit perfectly. And that's the whole idea of taking someone from out of town and teaching the Torah, mitzvahs, and Musar and Gemara. So it worked, and I got exposed to these type of counselors and rebbeim and guys. And it was just. I remember we came back late from a trip, and our JC didn't come on it, and someone turned on the light in our bunkhouse, and one of the guys got yelled at this kid and said, "What are you doing? Someone's sleeping." From the shift in ninth grade, where someone I got woke up in the middle of the night, and since I was medicated back then, and right now I'm not, I'm still trying to find what the right fit is. Every day, like clockwork. Marev, straight to the dorm, straight to the shower, in bed. I wish I could live like this now. So one night I got woken up with glass in my foot in ninth grade because my roommate got mad at me or something. Took a broom, like threatened me, and the light bulb shattered, and I woke up with a piece of glass in my foot. Now fast forward to Maganov, the complete opposite happens. This kid yells at this kid and says, "What are you doing? Somebody is sleeping." And that was a taste of what a Baal Musar really is, Slabatka Musar. And I came back from that ninth grade year of my life, and I said to my father, "I'm out of it." I didn't say that to him. I went back the first week of Elul, whatever, however they did it, and there was such another culture shock of emotional regulation, dysregulation, and all this. And I was like, I was screaming inside me. And we had this new English teacher named Rabbi Fogel, and I was like, such a culture shock again. Like a rabbi teaching math, like Lakewood, like I was not used to that, I was just like, So I called my father. He drove over. He took me for a walk, and across the street there's this rich neighborhood with these huge homes, like a gated community. We walk around this whole thing, and I don't remember exactly what he said. Like, it's hard to switch. You're in a good stick it out the whole first week. We'll see what's going to happen. It's not the end of the world. It's the beginning of the school year. It's Elul. We'll do the best we can. I didn't go back after I left my stuff. Like 3 months later, we're going to Lakewood. Within a week, my father worked very hard, got me into Chavetz Chaim, Cherry Hill, FTI, whatever. Yeah. And worked very, very hard getting me into there. But we didn't deal with all this stuff. I went through a lot of therapy, but it was all like personal is interpersonal development but none of the ADHD stuff. I never learned how to regulate. I didn't know any of this stuff. So comes in 10th grade, and sure enough, and he says in the orientation the first day, he's like, "We do not play cat and mouse in this yeshiva." Well, that like triggered me. And what does that even mean?
Uh-oh.
And I remember him like calling my father, "Your son can't have an iPod." And my iPod was the most kosher iPod in the world. iPod classic. And it's like, your son can't have an iPod, and like 12th grade, let's just skip there. It was same type of thing. Same, I went back to Rabbi Zuckerman, and it's like, it's not working out. It just emotionally, I was like being bullied again because talking a lot and people taking advantage and people stealing my avocado from lunch because ADHD and hell. It was not working out, not working out. But I made it through. Baruch Hashem, the principal graduated me. They wanted to hold me back, but like he told my father, English principal, was like, "Your son doesn't need to learn physics, and it's okay." So I didn't take physics. I just had 2 courses, and they graduated me. Baruch Hashem, I tied scissors in the afternoon in the base. I started the talisman back then. So like it just again, we weren't connecting, and it wasn't my fault. And when I want to do what Redemptive Glazer says in the Apostle U, which I did the Apostle U, and anyone out there should do it. It's breakthrough. It's life changing. Which I want to call up and just say, "Rabbi, I'm sorry. It's not my fault. I was processing ninth grade, and it spilled over into 10th grade, and we just didn't understand each other. And I remember one day I was so excited that I saw this Rashi, and I saw this shmooze, Chavetz Chaim shmooze, and I'm like, Rebbe, I would like to share a shmooze. Like, could I say it over to the yeshiva? And a lot of branches in Chavetz Chaim have this thing where Bacharim say over shmoozim, and that's how you become a Baal Musar. You learn how to learn Chumash better. And he looked at me, and his like face turned like green and other colors, and he's like, "You want to say a shmooze instead of the Rosh Hashiva?" And there was one ninth grader there watching this whole episode, and he just laughs. And I was so hurt. I was so hurt. Here, I'm like, I'm taking the yeshivas, the Kollel and Chavetz Chaim, the Slabodka, Musar. I'm learning to put it into perspective. And I found the Rashi that there's a shmooze over there, hit home, Musar, and it's Mucha. I don't know if it's Mucha. And like, he's like, you're not the Rosh Hashiva. And all I wanted to do was like, I'm growing. I found something, and like, back then I was recording with an MP3 player, the shmooze every week. I would email it to all the Rosh Hashiva, free Torah anytime. They would love it and send it out. And I'm like, so I was a camera guy already, just an MP audio only. So that was high school in a nutshell. I got special rules like I did, and that's the problem. If the ADHD doesn't understand that, you grow up and you're 30 and you're like, what's the problem? I tell my wife, what's the problem? I'm just gonna go do this. It's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. So
You want to talk about over medicated, or do you want to talk about the story of calling the police? Both sound pretty good.
over medicated, I already said, it was 108 milligrams of Concerta. I had 1 milligram of Versatile once in the morning, once in the afternoon, so I cut it in half. People bullied me because I would always ask me, when's 1 o'clock? When's 1 o'clock? If I had a watch, if I forgot my watch. That's timers. As a kid, I used to take a shower with a timer. I don't know where I got that from, but like they say, like reflecting, Um, I got this thing, dystonia. My tongue would curl up. It's similar to like
That's
Parkinson's,
from
where
the
your
over
toes curl
medication.
up. Yeah.
Right.
I,
Oh gosh.
it's not. It would sound like I'm intoxicated, drunk. I remember in camp, they were like, "Are you drunk?" Like I couldn't talk. It was horrible. It was just horrible. I needed the bathroom all the time. It was this. So that's why I drank cranberry juice. People made fun of me showing up to camp with like Adam and Eve, a case of like 25 juice boxes of cranberry juice. Who does that? So
Right.
like.
That's hard. How did it get resolved?
So when I was 18, I showed up to Eretz HaKodesh on my 8th grade trip to New York City. I forgot to bring my medicine. I was so scared to tell my father, and nothing happened. So I was like, okay. I show up to Eretz Yisrael, CCJ, Chavetz Chaim Shalayim, and I was jet lagged. I forgot to take the medicine, and then like I feel good. And then the next day, I feel good, and then the next day, and then I threw it in the garbage. Remember, a
Oh gosh.
neurologist in New Jersey like, no, it's the opposite. The U.S. is the hardest to get medication. Out the rest of the world, and that was that. I didn't know it was going to hurt Gemara and all time managing. I didn't know any of that stuff, but I
Oh, so you
had to
stopped
get
taking
off of
medication
it.
entirely, right? I mean, the medication wasn't agreeing with you.
I
So,
had
and then
to. I
once you
had to.
stopped, right?
And my parents are okay with this doctor. One of the 3 doctors who remain nameless that was over medicating me. I don't know, understand why. And then my wife says like, you got to sue him. Malpractice. Her father's a lawyer. Asked my Rosh Kollel, shout out to Shagi Kalas, big Torah timer, incredible Yid Tzaddik. Rosh Kollel, Rav, Rebbe, seminary teacher. So he said no. Let's move on. I went to Google Maps. I checked out this doctor.
Right.
1-star reviews less. This doctor killed my father, over medicated my father at 80 years old. This doctor got my father, and my father died from this doctor. Next review. This doctor got my father addicted to morphine at 85. And I'm like, ah.
Well, that's
I'm
scary.
screenshotting all these reviews, sending this to my wife. I'm like, so that's over medicating. Cops, I don't really want to get into it, but I had a certain relative that this like I was yelling at that. Whatever, they were misunderstanding me. I was not emotionally regulated. I wasn't
How
obeying
old were
them.
you?
They were upset at me. The first, I don't remember. It's like 15, 16, maybe the first time I was in like Indiana. And in Indiana, when you call 911 and they text you, and then the next time I was in New Jersey, and then it was like a dumb argument. It's like ADHD impulsivity could go the other way, where you could just freeze and get and they're like, okay, I asked you to leave, and like they weren't understanding me. So I'm like, but you don't understand. Like I don't need to understand. you're disobeying me. I'm the adult over here, and you have to listen to me. And I asked you to leave. I'm like, but you didn't. And and then they call, oh, you're passive aggressive. Like that's not how it works. And with ADHD, could be I was passive aggressive. I don't know, but like so then they felt threatened. They called the police, the whole thing. They had to report this, and because I remember the cop asking me, he's like, so what do you plan on doing in your life? Do you have plans? Do you have plans? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I want to be a rabbi. I think I was in yeshiva then. I don't remember. It might have even been like second year based manager. So I'm like, I'm in rabbi school. He's like, at least you're one of the 1% of the United States that has a plan. You want to be a rabbi. You're going to be good, son. You're going to be good. It's okay.
That's a good calf. Okay, let's wrap up this one. And we'll continue. We'll continue with round 2. How can people get in touch with you if they want to hear more?
The best way is WhatsApp. Yeah, or my website, thetalisman.com. Right now it's not up. It's coming back. It's under development.
Gotcha, under construction. Okay, excellent. This has been fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the ADHD Heroes podcast. For questions about the podcast, you can email us at adhdheroespodcast@gmail.com. Also, for sponsorships or to share your story, your ADHD story, you can also email us at the same place, adhdheroespodcast@gmail.com. To be in touch with me about ADHD coaching, writing, or speaking engagements, you can email me at rsreichadhdcoach@gmail.com. Be sure to check out my website, rsreich.com, adhdcoach.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn, or you can check out my blog on nefesh.org. Check out my blog there under my name. Important disclaimer: podcasts are great, but they do not take the place of mental health help or medical help. So if you need help with mental health or need a doctor, be sure to be in contact with some of them. Please, if you like this show, please rate, review, and share with a friend. That's how these things get out there. Thank you again for listening, and thank you to our producers at Pretty Easy Podcasts.